Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Melo Merezco. We have another awesome guest today, Lucy from Say Hola Wealth. And she's a money coach and she's a business coach. So I'm very excited to talk to her today. With that being said, Lucy, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me, Andrea. I'm doing fantastic.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And that's awesome. Let's start with the first question. How did you start your business of Say Hola Wealth? When did that idea came? And then when did you actually start executing the idea?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I started Say Hola Wealth in 2019 after I left a top executive job because I was underpaid and overworked. And I am the first one in my family to go to high school, go to college, have like this top executive job. And I had this idea that once I made it to corporate and made it to the top, like that I was living what my parents consider the American
Yeah.
dream. And I was living what it seems to be the dream. Like if you ask people in my community, even my friends, they saw me as this, Latina chingona that made it to the top. And she looks good. She dresses so
Yeah.
good. But my bank account was never reflected as success. Like I was still, earning six figures, living paycheck to paycheck because I had no knowledge of financial literacy. And so eventually I decided that I wanted to earn more. But anytime I negotiated my salary, my boss will tell me, like, you already make enough. Anytime I prepare and did everything that Google would tell me to do, like the ins and outs of how you negotiate a higher pay, I will be prepared. I will practice in front of the mirror and I will go back to my boss and he'll say, well, you can only make the average 3%. And so I was always constantly told that I was in a way no good enough, and I'm doing quotation marks, to earn more money. And so I decided that I needed to just go. And I was so terrified to leave this career because I started working when I was 16 for this company as a
16.
housekeeper, worked my way all the way to the top until I became the general manager. And I was terrified. And I kept thinking, like, should I quit? Should I leave? And I was like, no, Lucy, just be here, right? Like I was almost in a way talking myself out of quitting a job that wasn't serving me because I could hear this voice whispering in my mind, like, you have it better than your mom. Like you should be grateful that you have a 401k. Like your mother went through so much for you to be here. So just hang in there. And I think the pivotal moment for me to just decide that it was time for me to go was when I shared with my former boss that I was expecting my daughter, and he literally looked at me in the eye and said, oh, now you're one of those women in the company with that problem. And in that moment, my body felt something that I've never felt before. It was a lot of heaviness. It was a lot of like sweatiness. And I knew that I wasn't embarrassed because I'm pretty outgoing. So it wasn't embarrassment. It was more deep than that. But at that moment I didn't know what it was. So I left the company, and later on I started exploring a little bit more of, what does wealth building look like for people like me? And I am married. And so my husband and I were able to create a plan to pay off student loan debt. Once I have the time, I wasn't busy. I made time to look at my finances. I made time to look at my debt. And I started kind of strategizing, like, what are the things that I can do? And through the process, I've actually learned that I was carrying a lot of trauma of money. So the funny feeling that I had coming when my boss said this to me triggered trauma that I didn't know I had at all. And so in 2019, I started my business just trying to serve my community. But then when the pandemic hit and I saw how many Latinas were losing their jobs without having a $500 emergency fund, I was bawling in my living room. I was crying. I was like, how is this possible? Like I had the privilege to leave the workforce before the pandemic hit. Like I feel very privileged, right? Like I have a husband who can support me, but half of those women, or maybe even more than half, don't have a husband, don't have a $500 emergency fund. So what can I do to give back to my community and teach them the importance of financial literacy?
Yeah, I feel like you've hit on so many topics that we could talk about, like leaving your career, because that's like a big thing for many people to actually do, especially like starting a business venture where you don't know what to expect. Um, but let's go with like how when once you like left your job and you said did let's go like did you had the business idea once you left your job, or was it when you started your you trying to figure out like how to pay off your debt? Yeah, like how did that start, or how did you start
So
learning about it?
the business idea came. So my husband is also an entrepreneur, and
Okay.
once I left, I've always been very creative. Like growing up, I was very creative. I was very fun. I was very like, silly, a little bit stupid here and there. And I like that about me growing up. But once I had this executive job that required me to wear a suit, that, speak properly, be very professional, don't even talk to certain employees because you're
Oh
the
wow.
manager. So I feel like I adopted this identity of I can't be who I am. Like I have to let go of my Latinidad. I have to let go even like wearing red lipstick. Like you would never watch me going into corporate with a red lipstick because for me it was like don't wear anything that says that you are too much, that your Latinidad is too much, right? And so to answer your question, the idea came once I put myself back in school to earn my MBA because I have this belief that if I ever wanted to go back to corporate, and I'm doing quotations, I have to have a better degree, right? Like a lot of us have this
Yeah.
idea that more school is better. And so through the process, I learned about, I earned my MBA, so business administration. And in that moment, I said, I don't want to work for anybody anymore. Like, I don't ever want to feel like I cannot celebrate my Latinidad. I never want to feel like I'm too much. I never want to let a man decide my income potential. And it was just literally a decision that I made one day when I remember I was doing homework for my marketing class. And I said, I'm never going to let anybody, I don't care who you are, if you're a man or a woman, but particularly if you're a man, I'm never going to let that person tell me that I cannot earn more than the average 3%. And that's where my idea came about. I didn't know that it was going to be, money coaching. I honestly thought like it's going to be more of the business coaching because I was managing a $2.5 million company.
Oh wow.
I was managing employees. So I had like, in a way, I had already all of the experience that I thought I needed, right? But the beautiful part about deciding to just launch your own venture is that you get to create everything on your own terms.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. I actually have a question with like that experience part, because like many of us like let's say like for me, if I want to start a money coach venture, then if I don't have the experience, or saying that I don't have even like the financial stability, you could say, but you are passionate about helping your community and teaching them about money. Because me personally, I've also gone in the route of like healing my financial trauma beliefs that I've had. So do you think like do we need to start like figuring it out ourselves, like how to build that wealth, or can we do it simultaneously? Is that the word, simultaneously, when
I
starting it?
think that is a personal preference. And, we definitely need more Latina money coaches because our community is so big, right? Like we're
Yeah.
the majority now. We definitely need more money coaches. But I want to say, like, you have to ask yourself those questions. Because for me, like I paid off debt, right? So I had the skill of this is how I did it. I also went through the mindset work of what it's like not to just keep buying. I was a very much an impulsive spender, an emotional spender, right? And so I have to coach myself. So it's really just a personal experience. Do you feel ready right now to take on that endeavor of coaching people through some of the work that maybe you haven't done? And if the answer is yes, then start. And if the answer is, you know what, I need a little bit more, then find out what little more means. Because little more can mean two different things, right? Little more for me can mean I have to coach another 25 mujeres. For you, it might be, you know what? I just need to spend a lot more time thinking about my money blocks, right? And so there's not a right or wrong answer on when you should start your money coaching business.
Yeah, it's just like starting to have that clarity. Okay, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would highly recommend is that you work with a coach. Working with a coach, like investing in coaching, is going to save you so much headaches, is going to give you so much clarity, and you're going to have the accountability. So, working with someone, it just takes you like 5 years ahead.
And that's like the thing. Like many of us don't want to invest that money, especially sometimes we think it's too expensive, but it's not. If you like think of the return on investment, like you're gonna be either paying out. Let's say like if you invest on a money coach, you're gonna be paying off your debt faster compared to like if you're trying to figure it out all your by yourself. So yeah, that's
Exactly.
really really true. Going back to your business, when you were starting it, what were some of like those limiting beliefs or those things where you were like that kind of like made you think about like whether do I want to really do this, or were like blocking you from the success that you have now?
Thank you. So one of the things that came up, which we were talking earlier on the podcast, was I knew I wanted to help my community, but my whole life I was a very private person. I was raised to be very private, where you don't talk about how much money you make, you don't talk about your success, you put your head down. And so for me to go from this private career to start doing things online, posting, sharing my story, came with a lot of heaviness, but also with a lot of healing. And so the first block was, oh my God, ¿qué va a decir la gente? Especially like my former employees, what are they gonna say? And I said, you know what? It's not about me anymore. It's about my purpose. It's about me serving my community. And so for me, what really worked was working with a coach. Like I knew that I needed a coach that was already where I wanted to be. And investing in coaching came with a lot of shame for me, because I was thinking, well, you've been running this 2.5 million company, you've been managing 35 employees, like you should know how to go and start an online business, but it's so different, right?
Yeah.
And so I invested in my first Latina coach, and the process of just being in a community where you see other mujeres that look like you, other mujeres that aspire to be more than just the norm. To me, that was what I needed at the moment. And so I have to let go of the shame of how dare I to invest in myself when my husband is the only one that is providing at this moment.
Yeah, that I think that part that you said were like, how dare I invest on myself, especially with like the circumstances that one can be. That's it's and another thing that you mentioned is you while you're creating like before you creating content, you're breaking the beliefs on the identity beliefs that you had about yourself, were like, oh, what are people gonna think? Like, who cares what people are gonna think? Because if I know my intention, then or my why, then I know what I'm doing, and then by doing so, you're breaking those beliefs of like, oh, I'm a private person, or I'm not outgoing, or I'm not good at public speaking or whatever. So that's like really really important. Um, are there any other things, or even like now, is there like things that kind of like in a way like set you back, or and then you have to like, okay, like no, Lucy, like this is how it is.
Once I got over those two limiting beliefs, I was ready, because I just made the decision, and when you want to run your business or start a business, it's just a decision, right? Like you either start a business or you don't start a business. Like it's not like vamos a ver, like let's see if it works, right? Like and if you have that feeling of like let's see if it works, work with someone, because running a business takes a lot of energy and is or can be costly, right? So you want to work with someone who can help you identify the hiccups that they went through. For example, for me, I made some very heavy investments in my business at the beginning because I believe that I needed that to be successful. That I believe that I needed that to sign clients. And I didn't need any of that, right? So working with someone who can help you kind of get really crystal clear on where you need to go and the tunnel vision that you need for entrepreneurship. Because entrepreneurship is a roller coaster of emotions, right? And entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I believe that 100%, right? So if you ask yourself today, like, do I want to start my business? Yes or no? I hope the answer is yes. And I hope that you say, I'm in it for the long time. I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna fail again. I'm gonna keep failing, but I'm gonna keep going. And a lot of the businesses actually don't make revenue for the first 3 years, right? And so if you have the business idea, getting crystal clear on that, especially financially, because a lot of us think that, oh my God, I'm going to launch this business and it's going to make me money tomorrow. It's like, no, like you get to see that the first year of your business, you make no money. The second year, you make very little money. The third year, that's when you're like, okay, I got this, right? But you have to have the mindset and the finances for you to say, I'm okay, right? So you don't go on these a sprinting mode of like, I just have to sign clients, I just have to sign clients, and then
Yeah.
nobody comes and you're like, I'm not good enough, right? Nobody wants to work with me. And we all been there, by the way. I'm sharing this because I've been there. And so just having a clear, consistent plan that is simple and sustainable is going to help with your business.
Yeah, I think that's really important because I'm actually in a membership from, I don't know if you met or heard about Rachel Rogers, but she's
Yeah, I used to be with her, by the
yeah,
way.
I'm in her program right now, or her membership right now, and like that's what they talk about. Like you, many of us like or you have to be strategic and with your business as well, because like, and like how you said in the beginning, I invested on things that weren't you could say necessary. And with her, like one of the main things that she teaches you in the beginning is you have to just put out your offer. Like don't worry about social media, don't worry about like how they're gonna pay me or whatever. It's like putting your offer out. And then the other thing after that is I think it's like for level 2, you have to start hiring people, because that's another you can say another belief that many of us have, where like we have to be in control of everything and we can't delegate. And even if we do delegate, we still gotta like micromanage like the person we hire. So
Yeah.
going off that point, have you hired and people to work in your team, and then how was that process for you?
Yeah, I've had hired people for my team because we're growing now. And so I had experience, to be fair, hiring and firing people because of my previous career. And so for me, going through the process was not hard at all. What was hard was actually creating the SOPs, the job description, and actually believing that I could create my own rules, right? Because we live in this patriarchy society, capitalism, where job resumes are meant to not see people of color succeed. And so for me to have the power of writing a job description based on the ideal person that I want to attract to my business, that was one of the best feelings ever. I was like, wow, this person exists. Just like your ideal client, right? Like your ideal, I don't call it employee, like ideal team member is out there. And so I had experience with that. So for me, that part wasn't difficult at all.
That's interesting. For those for those who are starting a business and don't have experience, like what other advice would you give them when they do want to hire someone?
Have Make the decision, right? Is your business like there's no, because when you hire a team, you're financially responsible for them, right? So what I suggest when I work with people for business coaching is have consistently make 2,000, at least $2,000 every month. So you're paying yourself right away, right? You're not like, oh, I'm gonna just leave the money there. I'll just pay myself later. Like, no, you got to start paying yourself right away. Once you have maybe 6 months of consistent income, that's when you have to make the decision. Am I ready to scale? Because when let's say that the business is money coaching or business coaching, once you start growing, you're not just going to take care of your team member, you're going to take care of the
Yes.
clients, right? And so do you have the bandwidth to be taking care of two people. And sometimes you also have to be ready for when you hire team members that are not giving you the results that you expected, and then you have to let them go, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so my advice to answer your question is practice making money at least 6 months consistently before you hire. And through the process, just pay yourself every month. Even if it's $50, pay it yourself.
Actually, now that you talk about money, let's move into like for you in this whole journey. How is your relationship with money grown, and what were some like those limiting money beliefs that were not serving you, and how have you been able to overcome them?
So as I mentioned before, I my whole life I was suffering from this money avoidance, where I would just work and have the paycheck automated to my checking, and I spend money. I used to buy clothes every single paycheck.
Every
Like I
single.
would be like, oh, I have this job, so I have to look, really cute, and I always love deals, like which is it was actually a limiting belief what I consider now, but I've always spent money on clothes. Like I adorn myself with clothing to feel good. And so I've learned through my money healing that a lot of that was because of my abandonment wounds that I had, because I was raised by a single mom. My dad's family had a lot of money baggage, a lot of money trauma. My mom was actually a victim of domestic abuse and financial abuse. And so all of these things, patterns I saw growing up really affected my ability to see money as what I see it now. Right now, I have a beautiful relationship with money. Like money is my best friend. I have, money days with money. I do all of these, right? But it wasn't always like that. And so for me, what has worked is really spending time not just healing my money wounds, but also decolonizing my mindset.
Yeah, I think that's really important for you. When was it, or what resources you could say were you using to learn more about this? Because many of us don't become aware of it. Like even like now, me personally, I'm taking this course from Fred Broca. He's like a spiritual teacher, and we're talking about the course is about sanar el árbol familiar. So that's like healing your family tree. And one of the things like we gotta see not only the patterns that like our parents gave us, but also trying to figure out like where did those patterns came from, like from past generations. And one of the topics that I talk about was like money, because many from my family members, some of the beliefs that we have is like, oh, you have to work really hard for your money, like from sunrise to sundown. Like my dad used to work like 40 plus hours, and we always kind of like struggle with like trying to pay the bills and all of that. So, and even like with my whole family, like nobody has had like a 9 to 5 like or like stable job besides my cousin, one of my older cousins. So like all of those like parents that we gotta see is like it's yeah. So back to the question, like how did you became aware of it, and what resources were you using?
So when I started my journey, I was doing a lot of podcast listening. I bought pretty much every single book. And one of the things that I've learned very fast was that those books were not written for me. So if you look at the content of some of those personal finance books, there's a lot of shame when it comes to financial decisions. The language that they use is always about cut your expenses, be frugal. Women are not good with money, and so I was very aware at my early stages of my business and my personal journey that those business books were not written for me. And when I say for me, I'm talking about a women of color, a Latina, a first gen. And so I started thinking about, well, what is missing, right? And so I was able to identify some of the things that were missing. And then I created my own tools. So everything that I teach my clients through my, financial coaching, those are things that I develop myself. So I developed my own framework. I developed my own tools. I tested the tools on me. I tested the tools on some clients. Once you start seeing that clients are getting the results, then you're like, okay, this tool actually works. So one of the tools that I use is my liberation belief method, where I walk people through identifying the money beliefs and how to actually safely prove them wrong. And that has given a lot of results to my clients. So you get to create you don't have to create the tools, right? Because there's so many tools out there. Like you just talk about the tree that your mentor has. Like you don't have to create tools. But for me, it was important that I created things that were missing.
Yeah, and it's just, I feel like there's like so much information out there where there's so many ways that you can overcome these beliefs because or like there's so much like things that you could guide you because there's like manifestation. We could give an example where like you talk about um that how everything is energy, and it is, but like some people don't understand like the energy and the spiritual world, so they go into like the science part. So if you explain it to them and like how your brain works and all that, they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, and then they could like start breaking down their patterns of like whatever it is, like finances, money. Or other people were go into like the spiritual side, were like, oh, okay, money's energy, so that means I need to treat it as if it's my friend, like how you said, money's my best friend, and that's exactly how many of us have to start looking at it like that. So yeah, that's pretty interesting.
And
um
you can manifest what you just said is so important. Like you can manifest money. You can manifest, becoming the first millionaire in your family. You can manifest all of these. Like you can spend hours doing that. But if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a clear goal,
yeah.
money's gonna come and you're gonna continue to be on the pattern, right? So like for example, I now start to believe in manifesting. I have to be transparent, but I'm practicing manifesting now because my money has a clear purpose for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, keep manifesting all you need to, but also take a line action along the way. Do I
Yeah.
need to look at my finances? Do I need to have a plan? Like, what does it look like, right? Like, what are the numbers saying?
Yeah, and that's like that's like a big like misconception that manifestation has, is that it's only thinking, like believe, like you could say like affirmations, and yeah, that's a part of it, but you also have to take, like you said, align action, because then, because again manifestation is that you're co-creating, so the universe is gonna be guiding you with the journey that you want to do, but you also have to take the action to do so. So for me, if I wanted to like with the podcast, if I want to say I want to have like a hundred listeners by the end of the month, but if I'm not posting any episodes, then how exactly am I gonna get the 100 listeners if I don't have anybody, if I
Right.
don't have any episodes? So yeah, manifestation is like think the thoughts, be clear of what you want, and take action at the same time. So yeah, with your money coaching business and business coaching, how what were some like stories where you like were like the extreme ones where you were like, oh, like this, you really need to become aware of like these beliefs? Like what have been like your top stories were like people that you've had, that you coached?
I think in terms of like my business, I think indirectly, I had the belief that because I wanted to serve my community, I have this belief that I have to give discounts.
Mm,
I have this belief of like, oh, I have to start $150 for 6 weeks, right? And so
yeah.
I used to believe that that was my community, and I have to coach myself on. I said, no, it's not your community, it's you, and how dare you to think that people can afford you, right? And so I know the value that I bring and the results that my clients get. I mean, you can
Yeah.
go to my website and just see it for yourself. But I started to let go of that limiting belief. Like, my
Mm,
community is rich. My community has money, and my community is just waiting for me to be their coach, right? So I don't have any money limiting beliefs anymore in terms of that. I don't reduce my pricing if I don't get clients, right? Like if I don't get a clients out in a month or 2 months, I don't give myself this drama of like, oh, I'm too expensive. No one wants to work with me. I have to reduce my prices. I have to give 75% off. I have to do all
yeah.
of it. Like I don't have that anymore. And the reason being is because I know 100% that my offer creates results, and it's an investment, not just for one person, but it's an investment for generations to come. Because when I coach my clients on their money mindset, on healing their money story, their money trauma, they are able to create the ripple effect of now I can go and talk to my partner. Now I can teach my kids how to invest because I that's something that I do, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but I do teach women how to invest. Like my clients are able to learn how the stock market works, and we are able to walk from money mindset all the way to how to protect their legacy.
I want to talk a bit about, or set the point where like know your worth in the pricing part, because again, and in the membership that I have, she talks about how many of us tend to lower our prices because again we don't think we deserve it or it's too much, whatever. But if you know your worth, if you know the value of your product or your coaching sessions, whatever it is, then you'll then it's okay to price yourself. Like again, it's like that balance of, okay, what am I giving a value, and is this like, does the price align with it? And then again, not going back to a lower price or giving those discounts. So that's really really important. um have in what are when you're doing your money coach sessions, or you're like finance business coach, what are some of the limiting beliefs that you see like really really often?
In terms of my clients' beliefs,
Yeah.
I think it's very common for us to have a lot of self-doubt that wealth building is not for us because we don't see investors that look like us, right? Like my money coaching is not just about mindset, it's about like I want to help you. I want to teach you the steps to become an investor. And so there is a lot of self-doubt. Sometimes there is a lot of like I don't want to be too much because, culturally we're like calladita te ves más bonita. And so every client has different money blockers or money mindset blockers, and they also have different money wounds. So for me to say like everyone has this, it will be false. Like
Yeah.
what I actually have this right here. So one of the gifts that I give my clients when they come to work with me is actually a $2 bill. So I give them something else, but I give them a $2 bill. And that $2 bill, like even if you go on my podcast cover, I'm holding $2 bills, and people say like, "Oh, that's kind of cheap. Like, why not like the Benjamins, right?" And it's meant to for a reason. Like our money story is so unique, just like a $2 bill. Like you don't see dollar bills. When was the last time you saw a dollar bill? You probably didn't even know that there's a dollar bill, right? Because you're much younger than me. And so our money story is like this. Our money story is like a $2 bill. Our money story is so unique. So my money story is 360 of the opposite of your money story. We might have similar experiences, but it's not the same, right? And so every client is different, and I mean, I attract all Latinas, right? Like they're either entrepreneurs or what I call busy mujeres that work in a 9 to 5. But every client to me is unique, and I treat every client as that. Their story is unique, and my responsibility as a coach is to create the tools that are going to give them the results that they need, right? By the time they stop working with me, like they're gonna get results. Like it's not like, let's see if it works. Like, no, that's my commitment. And I always say this to my clients, like the expectation that I have, it's not so much of you, but it's of me. Like I'm gonna get you the results that you came to get.
Yeah, yeah, I could definitely like see like where you're coming from. Like it's how but is there like any, okay, then can you give us like actually, can you give us like an example, like when you're coaching, like what's your process? Because I know I like one of the things I really like when I was seeing your content is that you start with like the money mindset. Because again, many of us aren't aware of that. So what's after, once you start about like money mindset, like what's the other steps that you take through your clients so they could become more
I
aware?
prefer not to answer that because people pay me for this stuff. And so I prefer not to, share it because that's part of my framework. And I mean, people pay me money for this. And so what I like to do is if people are interested in learning my process, they can definitely visit my website.
Is there like any like general stuff that you could give us? Like not specifically like your framework, but like steps, like general stuff like people can start doing now.
So we start with money mindset, and depending on where they are, we go like, okay, do you have debt? Do you want to repair your credit? Are you ready to invest? Do you
Mm,
have a lot of money that you're just afraid to move, right? And
yeah.
so every client is very different. Like I don't coach my clients on we're gonna go from a step one to
Mm,
step 10. Like,
yeah.
how makes me think of like when you go places and you're like kind of like rehabilitating, they're like, we're gonna start here.
Yeah.
I don't have that for my clients because again, my coaching, like if it's private coaching, it's extremely customized to what my client needs.
Yeah.
And then the academy, the Say Hola Wealth Academy, we have modules that we talk about, but also when we're not coaching live, like I'm thinking about my clients, I'm creating results for my clients, right? And so, for anybody that is interested in growing a business, like your framework is not going to come in with your first 10 clients. Your
Yeah.
framework is going to come when you coach for like 5 years is a lot, like 3 years, right? When you coach for 3 years, you start to see patterns, but
Mm,
everyone is different. And you shouldn't
yeah.
treat your client like, oh, well, Andrea came to work with me. I'm going to treat her like Susie, right? Because Susie is much different than you.
Yeah.
And, going, like I don't do any containers where there are a lot of people anymore because I've
Mm-hmm.
just become another number. So when I invest in coaching, I'm very intentional of I'm going to invest in this coaching container that only has 10 people because I know that I'm number 9, right? I don't invest in like, let me be in this room with this person that has a very fancy name anymore. I used to, but then I wasn't getting results. So, I went from
Mm,
spending or investing, I want to say $2,000 for coaching to now investing $15,000 for coaching, right?
yeah.
And so the more you give to yourself, the faster you're gonna get the results too.
Yeah, that makes sense. And again, yeah, it goes with like there's different experiences, different levels of like, because there's some people like they are more aware of it. Like for me, like you could say, I'm a bit more aware of it, but and something that I've been struggling too is like, just because like you're aware of it doesn't mean, or you still struggle with like knowing what to do. If that makes sense, because yeah, yeah, I'll leave it at that. But okay, so is there any more? What's something right now that you're working on your business? Because I know like many uh women, many people of color, we haven't had these experiences before, or we don't know a lot of people who are starting their business. So for you, like, what's something that you're working on your business, and then what's some advice that you could give on that?
Like what investments am I making in my business or how am I growing my
How you're
business
growing?
or
Yeah, let's go with growing your business.
so right now how I'm growing my business is by focusing on the Say Hola Wealth Academy, which is a 12-week group coaching. And
Mm,
the idea with this is so I can scale my business so I can actually not work, right? Like I'm gonna work, I'm working, but then I'm creating this container of Latinas where we come together once a week. And then the time that I get back, then I'm already creating what my business looks like 5 years from now. So I'm
okay.
not just like, and this is something that anybody who wants to start their business, this is how business mindset works. Like you might be right now thinking like, man, I'm not ready to grow. I'm not ready to implement, right? But you have to have at least a 5-year plan for your business because when you have your clients that come to you, the clients that you're serving, they're going to give you money, right? Like some of it's going to go to your financial responsibilities, so your taxes. Some of it's going to go to paying yourself. And a lot of it should be going to your business investments. So if you have a clear 5-year plan, what does it look like? Is it year 3 when you buy your website, your branding, your software, right? Like your software to coach people? Because business, running a business it can be expensive, right? And so a lot of us say like, oh, I need a website right away. I need the Zoom. I need this, right? And you don't need all of that. But as you grow and scale, you need to have the cash flow to pay for your business expenses and your business investments as well.
Yeah, and again, that's like really important because many of us think like, oh, I need this, and that, so I could start. But in reality, like I could give the example for my podcast. I was thinking, oh, I need to buy a camera, I need to buy a webcam, but I also don't have a lot of money to invest on those things. So I already had my mic like from because I've been wanting to start my podcast like about a year ago, so I had already bought my mic. But even like but then I didn't. Of course, I didn't do it until like recently. But I was okay. Let me just start. I just need to send the only thing I need to do is send emails to see who can be in my podcast, and I need to figure out like what's my why or my intention behind my podcast. Like why do I want to start it, and then from there like the little things of like after I had my podcast like title episodes descriptions for the podcast, all of that. But it's like simple stuff that I could do where I'm not like, okay, I need to create an email list right now, or I need to find a better microphone or a better quality camera, because that's again you need to know what you're prioritizing in your business, and especially if you want to grow it, that there's things that you have to deal with it later than now. Do you have any other advice for those who when you were starting your business? There's a lot of things we gotta figure out. So what were like some of the things where if you want to start a business, like you should do now, like you should start in the beginning?
Do your market research. Is your business idea something that you can grow and scale? Um, as a business coach, I'm going to put my business hat on. I see a lot of business coaches sometimes just telling people like, "Oh, don't worry about that, don't worry about that." But it's like, no, like I mean, even in a MBA program, they're gonna tell you like market research is everything, right? Like, so what is it that you want to do? Is it money coaching? Is it business coaching? And then look around, and yes, you're gonna find a lot of Latinas that are money coaches. You're gonna find a lot of Latinas that are business coaching. But who are they serving? What are the demographics? Are they my competition, or can they be an ally, right? And also do your market research for pricing. Going back to what I was saying earlier, a
Yeah.
lot of us have this belief that, oh, I have to start like at $150 for 6 weeks. It's like, no, like look at what the market is doing, but don't just look at the pricing, because this is another thing that I see, right? Like people are like, well, Lucy's charging this, so I should charge this, right? Like, well, understand that Lucy has been doing it for 4 years, and the Lucy has been giving client results, right? So do your market research, and communities, everything, community over competition. So if you see someone who can help you get where you want to be, reach out to the person. Not everything it has to be paid. Like sometimes I have people that, a great example is the Say Hola Wealth Academy. So the Say Hola Wealth Academy is a lot of mindset and finances and investing, right? But the mujeres that are part of the coaching container, I have some entrepreneurs. So they ask me questions about how I run my business, how I structure my business, how I bring clients, right? How I develop my framework. And because they are already invested in my business, I'm not gonna say, oh no, pay me again, right? Like I give them everything, everything. So when people invest in the Say Hola Wealth Academy, sometimes they get no, sometimes they get the business coaching and also the wealth coaching. That's why I call it wealth coaching, because I do both.
Do both at the same time. Yeah, I want to ask with like community, because I feel like especially like me where I live in Connecticut. I live in Connecticut, so I feel like there's not like a lot of groups where I could go, at least in person. So for you, what would be like some advice for those of us who want to start not like networking or starting meeting other people, other Latinas, where usually it's only in social media where you can see them, but at least for me, it's like I don't want to be. I want to talk to somebody. I don't want to just be scrolling on their page, if that makes sense. So how did you start like talking to other Latinas or women of
Say
color?
hello.
Just like sending the message.
Send them an email. When, for example, I now have been networking with Latina billonarias, not millonarias, but like billonarias. And so what I do is I follow them. And if they have something that I think is just like outstanding, that blows my mind, I don't just reach out to them to get like free advice from them. Like I actually nurture that relationship. And anytime I approach, the person that is where I want to be 5 years, 10 years from now, I don't approach it as a business transaction. I approach it as, let me really build this relationship with this mujer, because that's really who I am. At my core,
Yeah.
I'm like that. Like, I'm not just like, you pay me. Like, in fact, with my clients, my clients come to work with me for 12 weeks or 6 months, depending on what they're doing. Once they leave me, we're friends, like somos amigas, like we're friends, because that is part of the building the relationship with them, right? So like my clients, I'm using the word clients right now, but like they're become part of my circle, right? So reach out to people. If you see someone that you admire, reach out to them, but don't reach out to them just to ask them how they do X, Y, and Z. Reach out to them to learn about them and their story, right? Like, you have no idea how many emails I get from people asking me like, how do you pitch yourself to a podcast? How do you do it? I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know you. And I know I'm not going to give you my free advice because I don't know you. Right. And so I think that, especially for us Latinas that are entrepreneurs, like building authentic relationships with each other is going to take you so far, because I am not your competition and you're not my competition, right? Like, I am my own competition and you
Yeah.
are your own competition. So just reach out to them, literally just say hi.
Yeah, and that it goes back to like our beliefs of like we we are the ones who hold ourselves back because we're like, oh, how do I talk to somebody? But like the answer is so simple that we just like forget it, that answer is like an actual possibility. Where it's like, no, yeah, just send the email again. Like, and I think that's another thing where I guess like a belief limiting belief where like we tend to we tend to like focus on ourselves, on like what can we get from the relationship or whatever. But it's like we gotta, it has to be a two-way, like I could give you this, but then you could give me this type of relationship, if that makes sense. um one of my one of like the main reasons why I started this podcast is like to let other Latinas or the women of color, or women in general, to know that they deserve like these opportunities. So for you, since we're almost at the hour mark, one of my last few questions will be like, what advice would you give to those who believe they don't deserve it? Like they don't deserve to start a business, to start whatever it is, a project, a hobby, even. What advice would you give to someone like, who doesn't believe they deserve it?
I love this question. So goes back to the theme of your podcast, right? Me lo merezco.
Yes.
And so yes, we are deserving of wealth. We are deserving of launching our business idea. We are deserving of love, and we are also deserving of having it all, right? Like the business, the health, the wealth, the healthy relationships. Like, we are worthy of all. And I say this with a lot of passion right now because I didn't believe this for a long time. A lot of us maybe have a good relationship and then we start self-sabotaging, like, I don't know, she shouldn't love me so much, or she, right, depending on your relationship. But we are deserving of all because we were created to be happy, we were created to serve, and we were created to live in our purpose. So for you that are listening to the podcast and you're like, I don't deserve it, right? Or no me lo merezco, like, you do. So just ask yourself, like, are you willing to do the work that is going to take you to the version of yourself that is going to feel just abundant in all areas of your life?
And it goes back with, again, living leads, but also identity. Because there's this book I've been reading. I don't know if you heard it. It's like Quiet by Susan Cain. I think that's how you pronounce her name. But it talks a lot about like introverts and extroverts. But like I think at some point she talks about identity and how we need to because we've been seen with like society expectations, education, all of that, our families. Like sometimes we don't know who, from what lens are we actually looking at ourselves from. So again, it goes back to becoming aware of the patterns that you've been, the patterns or the beliefs that you've been having, and seeing like, do I still believe this, or is this still serving me? And if it's not, then like I'm gonna cut it out, and then seeing how I can become, having clarity of who I want to become or the identity that I want to have. So yeah, that's like again clarity, and it's really important. My last question will be, what are like some of the experiences, like top experiences that you've had, or opportunities that you've had since you started your business? Like those achievements, those logos, those like if you would have asked Lucy from like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, she was like, I can't believe like this happened to me.
Top achievements. So I'm gonna talk about my business. So when I started my business, I think I was just kind of like, let's see what like I kind of wanted to work with everyone, if I'm being honest, but now I'm being very selective. Like I don't work with everyone. And so, and when I said I don't work with anyone, I don't mean like mujeres, right? I mean like any corporations. Like I get hit with pitches all the time. Like, hey, can you make this post on your Instagram, or can you add this announcement on your podcast, and we're gonna pay you X, Y, and Z. And to me, I don't care how much you pay me. I don't care if you want to pay me $10,000 for an Instagram post, right? Like, I'm not going to take it. If it doesn't serve my community and if it doesn't serve the mujeres that I want to help, I don't care if you're Tony Robbins. I'm not going to do it. And that has been one of the most satisfying things in my business, because when you are building wealth, when you are, when you're financially secure, when you're financially at peace, you don't let a dollar figure distract you from, oh wow, one post is gonna pay me 10,000, let's do it, right? Like you don't do that. You actually get to say no, thank you. Your business doesn't align with my vision and my mission and my community, so no. And so that to me has given me the power that I feel like was taken away from me when I was in corporate America, when my boss used to tell me like you could only make so much, right?
Yeah.
And now I get to be like, well, you only get to do my business with me if your values align with my company values. So that's number one. And then number two, I manifested a huge, what I think is a huge speaking opportunity with another company that is all about helping Latinas. And I've been working on just manifesting, making it happen. And it actually came through, it was in my inbox this year, like the invitation for me to speak. And that just shows that when you don't make everything transactional, things come to you.
And it goes back to like having like this is like manifestation, but like that's how we have to like live a life. Like it's not about the money, because if you're clear with what you have or what you want, then and you start taking those actions, then things are gonna come to you. And just because you said no to that $10,000 like post, you say, if you said no because that didn't serve you, but then because you said no, another opportunity came where maybe it was like $20,000, but that one did serve you. Like you could still take that opportunity. Like money does not matter. It's like you being aligned with what you believe in. So
Yeah, and financial literacy and stock market investing is what gives me the power to deny opportunities. Like I now get so one of the things that I didn't share with you is that I was actually denied access to financial advice by two financial advisors. And now you have no idea how many emails I get from financial advisors that said, we love what you're doing. Can you come? We would love to interview you for a job at our firm. Or they even send me like, would you love to manage 2.5 billion coaching or whatever? Like I get these and I'm like, no, I don't. I don't want to work for you. Like I'm financially in a place where I don't need to work hard for money. I want to, but I don't need to, right?
yeah.
And so for me, Say Hola Wealth is all about giving my community the tools and the results that they need, so they can destigmatize the idea of wanting more money. Because when we have more money, we have more options and we are givers. So when Latinas have more money, we're going to give back to our community. We're going to help somebody else thrive, and we're going to grab them by the arm and say, come on, amiga, like one of the things that I always say is like, let's build wealth juntas. Like let's grab each other by the arm and let's go collectively become the wealthy mujeres.
And that's actually funny because I interviewed someone, another money coach, and her name is Maribel. I don't know if you've heard about her. She founder of Our Wealth Matters. I don't know if you heard about her, but
I know who she is. Yeah.
yeah, and they wanted in the episode she was like, I'm she gave this let me see if I could explain it properly, but like she's like a lot of us believe like we gotta put each other down, but she was like, no, I wanna bring everybody together. I wanna help everybody I can, so that when we're in the top, like we're celebrating together, like we're having a party together. Hopefully I said that correctly, but there's like a clip if you guys want to go check it out. But yeah, it's like we need to help each other and support each other. Actually, but a question I do have is, how do we set those boundaries? Because sometimes we tend to give more than we have to, but then how do we know that balance of like how much can I help you? If that makes sense.
Are you talking about helping a client? Are you
It
talking
just
about
like
helping like
in
a family member? Are you talking about like helping a friend?
well, it could be like in general, but I guess we could go with like let's go with the business aspect, like a client. Like how much can you help that client, and how do you set those boundaries?
So in terms of like helping a client, you should always help your client to get the results that you promise, right? Like part of doing business or having a business or having an offer is you have to have clear results. Like what are the results that your clients are going to get? Like for me, is I'm going to help you invest your first 5 figures. Like that's one of the results, right? I'm going to help you decolonize your money mindset. I'm going to help you prove your money belief wrong safely. Like that's my
Yeah.
results, right? And so in terms of like how much can you give them? You give them everything. You give them everything because you want to um help them achieve the results, right? Now, I have boundaries for when I answer to my clients. So like my private clients, if they send me a message, a text message, I don't, first of all, I don't give them my real phone number. Like I have an app that I use so we can communicate. So that's boundary number one. Like don't give your personal stuff. Like, use an app. You can use Slack, you can use Boxer, you can use Mighty Works, whatever, right? WhatsApp, I think that's another one. And so that's boundary number one. Boundary number two is when I'm working with clients privately, I'm available Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If a client texts me at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I might read the message, but I won't respond. And now I'm a giver, so I have to learn to set the boundary more so for myself than my client, right? And so I don't do that. So create your office hours. When are you available? With the academy, we have a channel where we all chat with each other. And so the Slack channel for the community that I have, I check it on Fridays at 11 a.m. So if you need me to give you additional advice, if you need me to help you with something else, you put it there. So it's there. And then if you put it on, let's say Tuesday when we're having the academy, then you can ask me when we have the group coaching, or you can ask me on the next round. So setting those boundaries is so important because as a business owner, you're not just taking care of your clients. You're thinking about what other offers can I create? Do I need to spend time creating my yearly plan, my 2 year, my 3 year, my five, right? And so blocking time is another way that you can utilize to set boundaries, right? Like I'm available these times. Like my coaching happens on the academy happens every Tuesday at 6 p.m. My private coaching happens every Thursday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what I'm like hearing is that it's not about like how much you could or how much you should give. It's about creating those systems so that you're able to give as much as you can. But again, if you don't have those systems, like setting the blocking times or the office hours and all of that, like it's gonna be a lot of chaos because you're gonna be like, again, you're not setting your boundaries, so it's like people can take advantage of when they can, like sending you a message like at 12 in the morning like I did. But yeah, so setting those boundaries, that's really important. Do you want to share anything else that maybe I didn't ask but you think it's really important for people to know, or just anything that you want before we finish?
Thank you for allowing me to say something else. So the one thing I want to say is that if you are listening to this podcast and you felt inspired, whether Andrea just give you the chills or I give you the chills, like that is a sign that you are ready to build generational wealth. It's not about just ditching your debt. It's not just about, launching your business idea. It's about generational wealth because mujeres, Latinas, people of color can and should be thinking about creating wealth because we are not just the help. We are the new investors and we are the new and future millionaires.
Yes, yes. I can't wait to become a millionaire. But and for everybody who I know to become a millionaire. But Lucy, thank you so much for being here. Like this I love talking about money, so this was like I just like love having these conversations. So thank you so much um for coming here and just like talking to me, cuz again, as there's like times where you like, oh, should I message this person? What if they don't answer all of that? But you did, and like you don't know who can answer. So to anybody who wants to start a podcast, to anybody who wants to start anything, like just reach out. Like if you wanna, again, like building relationships and all that. Yes, just say hola. So again, thank you so much. You're always welcome back. We can always do a part 2 for anybody who wants it. For those who are listening, don't forget to give us a review in wherever podcast platform you're listening to. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, all of that, because that supports our channel and podcast. And yeah, thank you so much, Lucy, again. And thank you for everybody who's been listening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.